What's going on? You guys are watching NFL Daily by Chat Sports. Mitchell Renz here, and on today's video, I'm going to be walking you through 4 players out of the AFC North that I think could be on the trading block. Now, we have a lot of offensive skill position players, so I'm just going to throw it out there right now. It's a warning. If you don't like the dudes that I have listed on this show, guess what? Here at Chat Sports, you can go down in the comments section and you can yell at me. The Pittsburgh Steelers, are they going to be moving on from James Washington? Here we're breaking down something that I do think is at least worth talking about. And in terms of going forward, could the Steelers decide to move on from James Washington? Because let's face it, he is entering the final year of his contract. And this is one of those receivers when he was taken in round 2, number 60 overall in 2018 out of Oklahoma State. I actually like this guy. He was 5'11". He was a smaller receiver, but also a lot more stocky. I thought added some ability also over the middle for Pittsburgh. But like when I go back and I look at some of these really good teams, they had Antonio Brown. You had Juju Smith-Schuster, and I personally thought that Washington was going to be able to take the step forward when instead a guy like Juju continued to ascend. But when you consider the fact that right now he is the 4th best wide receiver on this team, and if you're trying to pinch some pennies together, if perhaps you get an offer on the table and you can move on from him, because I personally do not believe that Pittsburgh is going to be able to bring him back or even going to bring him back. It's really been something that they've never shown that they've done, at least from a top wide receiver standpoint. Now, again, you got Juju, who they decided to bring back on a 1-year deal, $8 million. Chase Claypool as well, who I actually thought had a very good year, is going to be entering now his sophomore season out of Notre Dame. And then you got Deontay Johnson. Johnson was one of those players where he continued to get better and better as the season went on. And for any of you fantasy football fans out there, this is one of those dudes that could really take that next step. So what do we do here at Chat Sports? We ask difficult questions, and I want you to go down in the comment section right now and be honest with me, because that's why we do these shows, because I don't want to just sit up here and talk to myself. That's pretty boring. So should the Steelers trade James Washington? I want you to go down in the comments section right now and type Y for yes, or I want you to go down there and type your N for no. I do want to give you guys a little bit of context, though, in terms of overall what this dude has done throughout his entire career. As a rookie in 2018, 16 catches, 217 yards, 1 touchdown. 2019 was the year that I was really excited. This is where I was like, all right, here we go. He's about to break out. He's about to really take that next step. And he had 44 catches, 735 yards, 3 tutties. 2020 happens where I'm a believer again, and I think that, you see some of the numbers that he's been able to put up. I think if Ben would have been healthy, he could have taken that next step. So 30 catches, 392 yards, and 5 touchdowns. So from a career standpoint, 90 catches, 1,344 yards, 14.9 yards per catch, and 9 touchdowns. He is more of a over-the-middle type of receiver, does add ability here and there as a deep threat, but that's not really where he's going to make his staple in this league. So what I decided to do here is cook up a little trade idea for Pittsburgh. Let's just say, hypothetically speaking, an NFL team offers the Steelers a 5th-round pick. The reason also why I decided to throw out a 5th-round pick is because as it stands right now in 2022, Pittsburgh does not have a 5th-rounder. So if a team isn't willing to offer you a 5th-round dude for somebody who's the 4th best receiver on your team, however, you did draft him in the 2nd round, 60 overall. But I'm genuinely curious what you guys have to say. Is Washington worth a 5th-round pick? I want you to type M for you think that they could get a little bit more. Type 5 for he is worth a 5th-round pick. If you don't believe that he's at least worth that, maybe a 6th or a 7th, I want you to go down in the comments and go ahead and type L for less. Now, the reason why we decided to make this video is we're always trying to keep you guys updated on what's going on in the offseason. I'm not saying that James Washington is going to be traded. However, I am saying if you do start to see some trade rumors or a player that could be dealt, keep an eye on James Washington. If you come across this video, you need to go ahead and download the Newsbreak app. How exactly do you do it? Just look at the link down there below, chatsports.com/newsbreak. So all I need you to do, get out your iPhone, get out your Android, and type in chatsports.com/newsbreak. It's going to take you right to the App Store, and you can go ahead and download this free app. I don't care what city you live in. I don't care what your zip code is. This app is applicable for you. So if you need some local news, you need to know what's going on in the weather around you. If you need to know the hot spots to eat, maybe you're into pop culture, sports content, and extra videos from Chat Sports, then I need you to go ahead and download the Newsbreak app. I broke down one player that could be traded from the Baltimore Ravens. The name that I decided to come across here is Miles Boykin, wide receiver. He has 2 years left on his contract. However, when you read the tea leaves about what Baltimore did this offseason, what did they do? They tried to continue to get more talent around Lamar Jackson. That's a good thing. However, it's a bad thing for Boykin because you go out, you draft Rashad Bateman early on in the draft, plus you also went out and signed Sammy Watkins. You can say what you want about Sammy Watkins. It's kind of crazy to me that this dude is still under 27 years old, but he's a good wide receiver too. So the fact that this kid was drafted in round 3, 93 overall back in 2019, when he first came out, I was like, okay, out of Notre Dame, like, he's got a lot of really good tools. I don't really like to use the term freak athlete, but I really do believe that he fits in this scheme here because in the 85th percentile and a lot of different very talented metrics, like broad jump wise at the pro comp, like at the scouting combine, 99th percentile. Speed with his size, he's got a lot of these intangibles that he might not be able to get on the field too much for Baltimore. Plus, they are a run-first team. But if there's another team out there that's like, man, I'm missing a wide receiver, I don't know, maybe the Atlanta Falcons or something, then they could go out and get a dude who is 6'4", 220 pounds. And if I'm his agent, if I'm Boykin, I'm looking to go somewhere else because you're not going to start over Marcus Hollywood Brown. Sorry, he's going to get a lot more targets than you. You're not going to get as many targets as Sammy Watkins. You're not going to get as many targets as Bateman. And then that falls in as Boykin, and oh yeah, you got a pretty damn good tight end named Mark Andrews. So let's just say at the absolute best, you're the 5th wide receiver. There's a lot of teams out there that could at least use a little bit more depth, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but like I actually really like Baltimore's wide receiver depth right now. So what do y'all think about this? Should the Ravens trade Boykin? I want you to type 1 for yes, or I want you to type 0 for no. Now, if you don't like the player that I picked, it's all good. Luckily for y'all, there's a bunch of dudes. You can always go down in the comments. Let me know maybe another player you think the Baltimore Ravens should move on from. So obviously, I'm going to show you his numbers here back in 2019 as a rookie. I almost said freshman. 13 catches, 198 yards, 3 touchdowns. 2020, 19 catches, 266 yards, 4 touchdowns. The number that you really need to look at and concentrate on is the touchdown numbers. I mean, 7 touchdowns and 32 catches. Perhaps if he gets more more targets, if he gets more red zone opportunities, that could convert into more numbers. And there's a lot of teams that don't have a 6'4", 220-pound wide receiver that is athletic as him. So when I really think about the fact that he is a great athlete, that being said, there's going to be coaches out there that are like, you know what? This kid didn't get the shot that he deserves, and I can work with him. If you have a coach and their big ego and you see somebody like, all right, man, I can work with that, I'm a believer that you can go ahead and trade. So what I decided to do here is try to cook up a fun little trade idea where the Ravens get a 6th-round pick, an NFL team gets Miles Boykin. You can fill in whatever NFL team you think that could be, but the reason why I went ahead here and selected a 6th because Baltimore doesn't have a 6th-round pick as it stands right now. So maybe they're thinking, all right, hey, shit, if I can go ahead and get a 6th-rounder for my 4th best receiver, maybe I go ahead and do that. Or you just go ahead and keep him on your team because, again, he's a good player. So what do y'all think here? Is Boykin worth a 6th-round pick? I want you to say yes or no if you don't think that he's at least worth that, or if you're just like, you know what, man, I'm not trading him. He's a good player. We need all the talent we can if we want to compete with some of the top teams in the AFC. But I want you to go down in the comments section right now. Let me know, would you accept a 6th-round pick for Miles Boykin? Chat Sports, NFL news, rumors, and we do a whole bunch of live shows here as well every single Monday and Wednesday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Pacific. So what I want you guys to do is make sure that you subscribe and make sure those notifications are turned on. Last week I said I'm going to start giving some shout-outs to the people that comment first on our videos. So if you're a part of the Noti Gang, I want you to start commenting first and start commenting Noti Gang. That way I know you guys are actually watching and subscribe to the channel. Could the Cleveland Browns move on from David Njoku? I wanted to walk through and look at the entire Browns roster. In that, I said, okay, I'm going to pick one dude that I think makes the most sense for Cleveland to go out and potentially trade. This one was pretty damn simple because I'll say I've been covering the NFL here at Chat Sports for almost 3 years. Basically, this entire time, David Njoku, there's been a reliable trade rumor around him. Not because he's not a good player. It's more based on fit And it's also based on the fact that Cleveland, they've gone out and made a lot of moves by signing Austin Hooper to the time, which was actually the highest contract for a tight end. Then you also went out and added Harrison Bryant. So the fact that he was drafted in round 1, that has some offer. 29 overall. You know that he's an athletic dude at 6'4", 246 pounds. Plus, they've already declined the option, and he's going to be a free agent in 2022. So if you already have made some moves by adding a guy like Bryant, adding a guy like Austin Hooper, there's no way in hell that I'm going to go out and pay somebody who could be the third, maybe at best second tight end on your current roster. But there's also going to be a lot of teams out there like, you know what? I know he's got the talent. We could definitely use a tight end. And if you have a young quarterback, because let's face it, there's a lot of young quarterbacks in the NFL right now. I am always a believer that a good tight end is kind of like that safety blanket. I never had a blankie growing up, but I'll tell you what, sometimes it feels nice to be cuddled up underneath one. So should the Browns go out and trade for David Njoku, I want you to type T for trade or type P for pass. If they don't end up getting a deal done here, I can understand that because David Njoku this year is owed, I believe, $6 million. I don't believe too many people are going to go out and pay $6 million for a tight end. Now, if you believe that you are a win-now situation in terms of a Super Bowl, then potentially you go out and do it. But hey, let me know. T for trade or P for pass. This is what Njoku has done throughout his entire career as a rookie. 32 catches, 386 yards, 4 touchdowns. 2018 was the year where I'm like, okay, it always takes a tight end. Normally that first year, they don't get it all together. They're learning blocking schemes. They're learning a lot of different things. And then that second year, you really saw a lot of his talent, which again, the 56 grabs, 639 yards, 4 touchdowns. 2019 happened, battle and injury, limited playing time. Then 2020, where he just really did not see the field all that much. And when you consider the fact of how much talent he has, for him to only finish with 19 catches, 213 yards, 2 touchdowns, that's him not being used right. It's also him not being in the right scheme. The Browns want to run the football, and Njoku is not a blocking tight end. So throughout his 4-year career, it's 112 grabs, 1,279 yards. You got the average there of 11.4 and 11 touchdowns. I'm not 100% sure which team is going to be able to make a move for him or if any teams go ahead and do it. However, I tried to find the top 5 teams that I personally believe need a tight end the absolute most. The Buffalo Bills. This is a win-now football team, and if they believe that, a guy like Knox isn't enough, then potentially you go out and make this move. The Jacksonville Jaguars. I know they have Tim Tebow. He's not a tight end. The Tennessee Titans, you could throw them in there as well. They've made a big-time move for Julio Jones, but they lost Jonnu Smith and Anthony Ferguson. Come on. Washington football team, another team that could definitely use a tight end. And the Carolina Panthers, I would love to see Njoku with Matt Rule and his offensive mind. So what is Njoku worth in a trade? Is he worth a day 1 pick? No, it's pretty simple. Is he worth a day 2 pick? Probably not even that. If I'm running an NFL organization and I see somebody who's been able to fall down the depth chart as much as he has, I'm not giving up a 2nd, 3rd, or 4th round pick. I understand he was a former number 1, a former 1st round pick, 29 overall. He's probably going to be worth a day 3 pick. But hey, go ahead down in the comment section. Let me know what you all believe David Njoku is worth in a trade. I figured a lot of fans for the Browns, the Steelers, and the Ravens were going to come across this show. And you know what? We actually have YouTube channels for all of these shows, but we also have channels on the Newsbreak app for the Browns, the Steelers, and the Ravens. So I want you to pay attention close here. The Browns Report on Newsbreak has 555 followers. Steelers Talk has 356. Ravens Rundown has 222. So if you're a Ravens fan and you see that you're getting your butt kicked, go to chatsports.com/newsbreak. In the search tab, search Ravens Rundown, give them a follow. If you see the Steelers are losing, guess what you got to do? Chatsports.com/newsbreak, search Steelers Talk, and go ahead and follow it. If you're the Browns, you're like, all right, man, we're in first place. You're actually not. There's like 10 other channels that have more followers than you. So I figured a lot of fans are going to come across this, but if you just like all football and you want to stay up to date, you can go ahead and download the Newsbreak app, chatsports.com/newsbreak. The last player that I'm talking about on this video is around the Cincinnati Bengals, and it's Auden Tate. He's a big outside wide receiver who I think could be a potential appealing trade chip. He was drafted in round 7, 253 overall. So for some of you that are like, wait a minute, a 7th round pick, 253 overall, The reason why he was drafted so late is because of off-the-field concerns, not so much of his athletic ability and his on-field football production, but the fact that he is a good athlete, the fact that he is a little bit bigger, 6'5", 228 pounds, he reminds me a lot of a Kelvin Benjamin, if you will, where you're like, he's a wide receiver. He might also be a tight end. I'm not 100% sure, but he is buried a little bit here on the Cincinnati Bengals depth chart, and the fact that they just went out and drafted Jamar Chase, number 5 overall. I like T. Higgins, a good receiver out of Clemson, and they have Tyler Boyd in the slot. If you're trying to sell, if you're trying to at least get something for Auden Tate, I am a believer that this is something that, the Cincinnati Bengals could potentially do. So what do y'all think here? What would you do? Should the Bengals trade Auden Tate? And this is German, so don't, I went to Germany for a year, so I know a little bit. So type J for ja, or I want you to type 9 for no. It literally means yes, and it literally means no. Should the Bengals end up moving on from Auden Tate? I'm going to give you his numbers here, and then I'm going to wrap up this show. I appreciate everyone that's watched it this far. 4 catches as a rookie, 40 catches in 2019, and then in 2020 took a little bit of a back step. So if I'm trying to sell, if I'm really trying to get the most out of Tate, I am really trying to sell that 2019 year because, hey, he had an opportunity. Maybe he continued to be great. So in 3 years, 58 catches, 760 yards, 1 touchdown. Big receiver, 6'5", 230 pounds. Will the Cincinnati Bengals decide to move on from Auden Tate?